So I like responding to questions as a way to create my videos and see what people are interested in hearing about. I respond to almost all my comments on Twitter and YouTube. So I appreciate those comments. Occasionally people direct message me, email or direct message. You know, it's okay, but honestly, I prefer to respond publicly. That way I'm helping more people than just the one person who messages me. Now, on the other hand, I had this one person here wrote a long email with several questions. Would have been too much for a comment, so that's okay. So in that case, I'm making this video. So that all being said, and just for those who don't know, obviously this YouTube, if you're watching this, it's davelevine.com. On Twitter, I'm davelevine0.com. So I'm going to respond. This video is inspired. I got a long email with really two questions. This video will be one of the questions, and then I'll make another one with the other question. So the first one, and this is related to bubbles, you know, and I'm hearing a lot of it's different this times out there. Or the super cycle. Have you heard about the super cycle? Super cycle is a fancy way of saying it's different this time. It's, you know, super cycle means, you know, bubbles, they go up and then they crash and then they go flat. You could also call it a wave function, right? Everything in the world is a wave, and markets are waves. And, you know, there is an idea that the wave function itself is going to cease because blockchain is so great. And this time it's just going to go straight up forever. It's silly, okay? But, you know, I call it silly. But let's talk about why it is not different this time. There's no super cycle. So this question, I'm going to sort of feed off of this question and maybe talk about a couple other things. So you have experience with bubbles, but I feel like blockchain is more impactful than the internet. It's not merely the same kind of bubble, you know. This is bigger than the internet, and you know, yeah, there's stupid things happening, like people buying Cardano. I appreciate that they understand that's stupid. By the way, 3 messages yesterday from friends and family. One of them was, how do I buy Dogecoin? There was no even like, should I? One person messaged, should I buy Dogecoin? So the other one was like, how? You know, I'm like, oh my God. And then another message on, should I buy Ethereum Classic? I just replied, no, it's a shitcoin. They're like, but have you seen what's been happening in the last month? I said, yes, it's going straight up because a bunch of idiots who don't know what they're doing are buying shitcoins. By the way, that is a good sign that the local top, there's been a shitcoin run, big shitcoin run the last several weeks. It's probably over. Me getting 3 calls in one day is usually a sign we're at the top, right? All the people who know nothing are super motivated to buy shit. So the manipulators who run those things up are, I'm sure, already exiting. And who's next? And stay patient in these bubbles. If you're listening to me, I mean, I only am owning right now Ethereum and Uni. That's it. I'm waiting my turn. I'll get my turn. I know it's coming. And it can be painful to watch Dogecoin outperforming my excellent investments, but whatever. You know, everybody gets their chance in the bull market. So stay patient. Anyways, yeah, and seeing Cardano go up, I hate it. Well, Cardano's different because they just, this Hoskinson has a way of convincing people that his shit smells. Whatever. I mean, smells good, that is. My shit smells, but I probably can't convince you it smells good. Hoskinson, on the other hand, oh boy, that guy. All right, anyways, do you think this will be different than other bubbles? So, like I said, first of all, that means you're saying that the whole idea that markets don't move in a straight line, that everything goes up and down, that, you know, everything is sort of are waves, that dynamic in physics is going to end due to the wonderfulness of blockchain. No. And this is a pattern that's not just, well, oh, but look at the internet bubble and look at the other bubble from 15 years ago. We're talking hundreds or thousands of years of this pattern. It's not going to change today. And really, if you really think that this many century long pattern is going to change today, Well, that's pretty fucking bold. I wouldn't put even all my money, even if I really believed that, I would be super concerned that somehow I would believe such a thing. A great book, there's a book called Millionaire about John Law and the bubble from it was in 1700s regarding investing in, French, you got them investing in Louisiana and like whatever. It was one of the first major, one of the first huge, he got the government, talk about a big deal. It's like discovering a new world. And people are like, well, institutions are getting involved. Well, how about the French kingdom getting involved for the first time? A lot of firsts in that bubble. And I took a lot of time as I read it, taking note of how long the bubble took, what the price gains were, was it up 10x, 20x or whatever? And I kept track and I really read sort of slowly keeping track of that. And to be honest with you, it looked exactly like our last, internet bubble and the other bubbles. The same shit, same thing over and over again. I would read that book. Take it, because they give you some prices that things were at and what they went to. And it's the same sort of order of, a couple orders of magnitude, everything goes up 10x or 20x and then it crashes and just, anyways, a great book. So no, I don't think this is anything different. Okay, what are your thoughts? Keep in mind, crazy money printing from the Fed and its Ponzi scheme. Well, crazy printing from the Fed has been going on for, certainly since 2009. So what is that? It's 10 plus years is real crazy. But even before that, they've been printing and manipulating markets. We've been off the gold standard since 1970. All of a sudden, we're gonna, but the thing to remember, the reason we have bubbles and waves is because there's always pushback, right? So if the price of Ethereum or just the usage of Ethereum, the adoption or even Bitcoin becomes so big, those in power are going to push back, and the bigger it gets, the harder their pushback, and there's going to be a response. The world, everything in the world is set up with these multiple pushing sides, and if one side pushes hard really far, the other side pushes harder, and the further out one side gets, sort of the weaker they become because they're in a new world, and then there's pushback. So you always get this push and pull, which is influenced. So the higher we go up, the more there's influence for some sort of pushback from those in power who are losing from the move up. Also, the technology itself, where, we've made great advancements on Ethereum and scaling is, there's some scaling here and more is coming, but in order to keep going straight up at this pace, the scaling, we're not there. Ethereum can't handle all of the transactions in the world. These things can only move so fast. And Bitcoin too. Bitcoin's not that congested right now because there's nothing to do with it. People just, they hold it and whatever. But if it was going to be like everybody in the world's adopting Bitcoin, it would grind to a halt. You have a push and pull with everything. And so there's always a pushback. The exact timing of when and how much and all that is tricky to pin down, certainly in the short run, but it will happen. There's no, people talk about the escape velocity. It gets so big that it then can't come back. This is for people who don't understand the push and pull of complex systems. Okay. It just itches me if I have to wait. Oh, and this is important. Do I have to actually wait until all of the, because I've talked about, if you're new, getting in now is not the time. Wait for the crash, right? And it's like, oh my God, I can't wait. I want to just invest now. Do I really have to wait 2 or 3 years? Yeah. And I'm sorry to say, and I'm sorry to say, I'm also not sorry to say, and I'll explain why. I'm sorry to say the answer is yes. I'm also not sorry to say because one of the most important and most difficult parts of investing is patience. Doing nothing. And it's painful now to do nothing while things are going straight up. it's also difficult to not sell when things are going up. It's difficult to, well, I guess buying is doing something. Buying when the buying when it's low, that's not a patience thing. But I guess it is to buy when it's low and then watch it go lower and just take the pain, right? And then, or to buy and it doesn't, and wait years of it doing nothing. Patience is one of the most important things you'll learn. And also, I say do nothing. I don't mean do nothing. I mean, don't jump in and think that start pretending you're early and you're making lots of money. You can get in and start learning. So there's a lot to do when it comes to learning. What is your portfolio going to look like? Do some fake buying or honestly, fees on Ethereum are so crazy right now that if you're a small person, I don't know how you do it. You have to be investing thousands to make up for the fees. So, because I usually would advise, well, get a little money, throw it in Uniswap, or lock some money, tokens up here, or I'm going to start making some videos, a lot of videos about these stable coins is the term, but algorithmic ones, RAI, very interesting. Frax is my new fascination. I'm studying. Might get him on the show, by the way. The guy, Sam Kazman, whatever. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Anyways, and so testing those things out is really a great way to learn what's going on, and you can do it with just a tiny bit of money, so it's not investing, it's education. But you will spend a fair amount on fees, so I don't know how much money you have. Now, compared to going to a college, it's nothing, so you spend $400 in fees to to test out Frax, for example. You lock up USDC and FXS to mint some Frax, and then you take Frax and USD and lock it into Uniswap liquidity pool, and then you take that liquidity token and stake it in the Frax system to start earning rewards. That whole process probably costs $400 in fees. So, you're going to be investing a lot of money to get a decent return. However, you could look at it as just an education. You're going to spend $400 in fees and throw $500 into the mess and just look at it as a loss. But you're learning, track your numbers and see what happens and learn how systems work. So there's things you can be doing, you can be learning and studying, and also keep track, or maybe if you're in an exchange, buy tiny bit of it, assuming you're going to lose money, and watch what happens. And notice how you feel. Watch the euphoria, because things are going to keep going up and up and up. And maybe you will be smart and sell a little when it's high. And then watch it crash and go further. Just as this stuff goes up and up, you can never believe it. Even though I know this happens, watch Dogecoin. I'm like, how can it go up so much? How can these things be real? And on the way down, you get the same feeling in the opposite direction. Down again? More? Another 50%? Fuck. So you're involved. You're not getting rich now. Getting rich is a 5-year game minimum. So there's things you can do, but not getting rich in the next 3 months. And it's whatever. Okay. So, do you have to wait? Yeah, it's just, I always look at the chart, and when it's going straight up, and I've had this, I've been on the right side and the wrong side of that when I was younger, like you, and getting in on the straight up, and then 2 years later, like, fuck, what an idiot I was. And on the other hand, when I started with Bitcoin, it was going straight up, and I just waited and waited and waited and got in at around 300. And still it was painful. Got in around 300 and then waited 2 years for the thing to move. I mean, at least, right? Well, 2015, 1.5 to 2 years underwater with my 300. The $300 Bitcoin price. So it's not easy, guys. Not easy. And if you're late, take note. This will happen. This kind of craziness will happen again but you want to be early, not late, okay? And it's not different this time. There will be a crash. Oh, one other thought too was there was something about, is this different than other bubbles? As I said, it's not different. One thing that I think is a little different, and I could be wrong here, but it feels like this time there's an everything bubble. So, bubbles are bubbles, and, when the internet, the 2017 bubble or the Bitcoin bubble in 2015 was, the crypto bubble was, so the crypto bubble in 2017 was the crypto bubble, and other markets were doing their thing. The Bitcoin bubble in 2014 was, Bitcoin and, crypto, if there was any other. Crypto at that point was up, but everything else was fine. Japan bubble in 1990 went straight up and then started crashing on most of its own volition. There were other things going on, I guess. We had a real estate bubble thing in America in 1990 as well. So maybe they were connected, but usually these things seem to be separate, and in the housing bubble in America was like the housing bubble, and then when it crashed, it did affect sort of the rest of the world. But I feel like usually these bubbles, there's bubbles that are specific to their specific area and their specific country, whereas on this bubble, it's like all governments, all around the world, all asset classes, going straight up, and I feel like it's all going to crash at the same time. That would be a little different. Now, that's not different in the thing about bubbles. It's the fact that there's so many bubbles all on sort of the same path to prop at the same time. That would be exciting. Might be the case. And, shoot, there was one other thing I was going to say about, that gave me an idea of one more point on this topic. So bubbles at the same time. Oh, and the number one, the other thing is, was this question in here? I don't know. I feel like the question was in here somewhere about, growth. Keep in mind that growth, this is part of blockchain is so awesome that the bubble is going to be different. Keep in mind that real growth and real improvements are one thing, and price and euphoria is another. So growth tends to be on a certain pace that's relatively steady. And if I was to make a guess, I feel like real growth is greater when prices are depressed and not booming, because it's mostly only the people who are really in it for the right reasons, and they're working hard, and it's got to be real, and it's not, there's not all this money flying around and idiots jumping in and all this that we get at a time like this. So, but growth is one thing. The euphoria is a combination of things. One is just people's ideas and imaginations. Like, for whatever reason, NFTs caught the imagination of so many people at the same time, and then they all get excited, and then they all jump in because of that at the same time. So one thing is that the ideas. I remember with the web, it was like, what's the web? What's the web? And then it was like, oh, you can build your own web page and Federal Express. I don't have to call them. I can look at it on the web. I get it. And everyone was like, oh my God, at the same time, I want to invest in this at the same time. There's that. And then there's also the central bank printing money, which is really one of the, probably even the most important, is just them pumping money into the system. It's got to go somewhere. And most of the money that the central bank prints goes to rich people who invest. So that's why everything's going up right now. I believe it's mostly, there's some of this people like, oh, I get it and everything, but it's mostly just following the central bank. And so it doesn't, the fact that blockchain and crypto or Ethereum or these things are so great and revolutionary is one of the reasons why those are going up the most in this bubble. But the bubble itself is mostly because of the central bank. And I believe what will end this bubble is the central bank no longer being able to print. And, I don't know how that happens, but because the pattern always used to be, when things start falling apart, then the central bank comes in and bails out their friends. That's why they print money for rich people, because that's all their friends, and so they can stay in power. That's, so they would always, it used to be they were the lender of last resort, then they became the only lender of resort, but they only came in when they need to. Now it's just the central bank just keeps printing every day. Print, more and more and more. And so it's just to the point of it, they just keep printing until something breaks. Inflation is a well-known way. If there's really inflation really catches on and prices going up, that means the scam is over. And they can't print anymore because printing just makes prices go up more. And in other words, what eventually happens is we have this idea that central bank printing money solves problems. So when we see a problem, we're just like, oh, print more money. The central bank printing money doesn't solve problems, okay? I mean, there are times in history in the world where printing money actually makes sense, whatever. But right now, the solution to our problems, there's some great joke about aliens land, in New York City, and they said they're going to destroy us all. What should we do? Let's print money. It's like, it's not solving our problems. At some point, just like we have this thing where everyone has an idea that we understand all at the same time, at some point we're going to understand that the central bank not only is not solving our problems, but the printing of money is causing problems. When that happens, they can't print anymore because the printing makes the markets get worse. And that's when the Ponzi is over. And I feel like that's the next act. I feel like that's, hey, listen, maybe it's not. And to be honest, I thought the central bank Ponzi scheme would end 20 years ago. So, take my thoughts with a grain of salt. But I do feel that at some point the central bank is going to be forced to stop printing and all markets crash at the same time when that happens. And, and it seems like if that's the end game, and the other thing is I look at how bubbles go, it's this curve that just goes the way it goes and then it crashes. It's just like in the slope, we're at the slope where we're near the end. So I don't know why the central bank will have to stop printing, but I'm looking at the slope of the curve and it tells me we're near the end. Okay, so I don't know. We'll see. Now, inflation would be one way, but it doesn't have to be inflation. It could be, the central bank also causes deflation. Maybe we have huge deflation and people realize it's the central bank, or it could be, I don't know what it is. You never know what pops the bubble, but I believe it happens. And whatever. I'm getting into crazy prediction land here, which is, a fool's errand. And also with investing, I'm not invested like, I like to invest so that I will be happy no matter what happens. If the market crashes, my portfolio, look at your portfolio, and what if the market fell by 50%? Would you be okay and ready to weather the storm for 3 to 4 years? If yes, you're good. Also look at your portfolio, and if this thing goes up another, 100, 200%, are you well positioned and you'll make money? Great. Your portfolio should be ready for both. And what if we just sort of, all of a sudden it drops by 20% and goes flat for a year or two? Are you okay? Your portfolio should be ready for those 3 scenarios. And then you're all set. And then it's not about whether you can predict what's going to happen next, because you can't, and I don't. I make these predictions, and I talk about them in my video, but I'm not investing based on my prediction of whatever. I mean, I guess I am influenced by it, but at the same time, I try to, I know, believe me, I know, I can be very wrong, ladies and gentlemen. It might be hard to believe because I've been so right for so long lately, but whatever, stay humble, and good luck.